Hello and welcome to my art channel. My name is Kristina Moyer and thank you for joining me in today's time-lapse challenge type of video. I decided to come on and show my face before I actually get into the time-lapse part of it because I feel like I want to connect with you guys. I want to make sure I'm feeling connected with you guys, and also I felt like it would be more fun to explain why I decided to do a Viking warrior painting. It all started on Messenger, my family Messenger chat. I put a poll on this Messenger chat and it just basically said, what do you guys want to see on my channel, like YouTube channel next? Should I do, a time lapse? Should I do like a how-to video? Should I do blah, blah, blah? Something like I normally do. And with polls, you can usually add an option, and maybe there's a way you can prevent that, but I didn't bother because I like hearing if there's other ideas they might have. And so anyways, my brother Will was the first to respond, and he added an option that said time lapse of a Viking warrior. My brother Will, I'm just going to explain a couple things about him. Maybe I'll show a couple pictures if he allows me. I'm sure he would allow me to share some of his art. So if you see some of his art, you can kind of see why he might have chose a Viking warrior. I've always looked up to him with his artistic abilities and tried not to feel inferior to them, but it's kind of hard not to. I mean, look at these. They're pretty amazing, but we're totally different styles, and I always say that to make myself feel better. Everyone proceeded to select this option that my brother Will put on there of this Viking warrior time lapse, and I'm thinking, what kind of reference image am I going to get from this? Like, I don't know Vikings. I don't have any photography that I've done of Vikings. Like, what? I decided to go with it, but I needed some reference images. So I said, well, if you want me to do this, I need somebody to take a picture of themselves so I can use their face or, their stance, like their expression, something, because I don't have that kind of photography. So that's when my brother Hugh sends a picture of his face, and just his face. So I'm like, okay, well, he's not like in a stance or anything, and he said that there's like Vikings don't pose, and I just, I don't know Vikings, so I guess, what do I know? And I'm hopefully not offending anyone who is a descendant of a Viking or anything like that, and I don't mean to do any of that with my work. I honestly don't. What I decided to do is take my brother's face and impose it onto the body of a Viking. This is what I came up with. These are the three that I came up with. And one of them reminds me of James Corden, so I like that. And the other two were a little more serious. That first one was just kind of a bit of a joke. But then they all chose this number 3. So what you're about to see is kind of a collaboration between my siblings and myself. So let's get started with the video. So I'm going to start with my base layer. I chose some reds and browns with water, so watered it down quite a bit, and a nice large brush to cover it up. This is an 11 by 14 canvas, and then the thickness is not the gallery wrap, it's the 0.75 inch. And I'm just going to cover it all up. And I decided to add some yellow ochre because I just wanted a little more opaqueness to it. And this just really helps if there's any spot where I don't cover in paint and kind of something beneath that shows through. Kind of makes it more dynamic in that sense. So it's kind of like a neat layer to add to your piece. And I kind of go with something that works with my image. So this one is what I decided. Hey, Viking, red, bloody-ish, muddy. I think that works. So once it dried fully, I created a grid and then used my reference image and sketched with pencil crayon. And now I'm putting in my lightest lights, so kind of working in the tonal values. So it's a really great way to get your image kind of down, and then you don't have to be staring at your reference image so strongly. You can kind of have a little more freedom to just, like, where the things are in place at that point, and you can just add color and have more fun with it at that point and focus on getting those details. I'll still be using my reference image throughout the whole thing, but you're just not so focused on it as you are in this stage. I want you guys to stick around to the very end because a special treat of music by my brother, whom I'm painting at the moment. So this is my brother Hugh, as you know from the intro explanation, and he taught himself how to play guitar, drums, bass. There could be more, and he sings. So super talented, as are pretty much all my siblings. I don't think any one of them doesn't have some kind of artistic ability. And so he actually has some compositions, and because he's into heavy metal, I said, do you have any compositions that would work? I felt like heavy metal music would work well with Viking. I know some other music would work well also, but I just know that he creates this kind of music. So luckily, he did have some that he was willing to share. So I'm super excited for you guys to have the last few minutes of this time lapse devoted to that. So you won't have to hear me talking. Hopefully you enjoy a little bit of banter, but if you've subscribed, if you haven't, think about subscribing. So yeah, really cool. I'd love to incorporate more of his pieces in my other time lapses and things. But what I normally do would need to be maybe more like folky and that kind of thing. So I'll see if he's willing to do that, kind of step outside his comfort zone, just as I'm stepping outside of mine and doing a subject that's totally different. But it's pretty cool. It makes me feel connected to my siblings as well, who are into that. And yeah, I mean, I guess I'm into movies and things like that. I'm just not as hardcore as they would be, I would say. So yeah, just continuing to work through these different layers, and the tones, the hues aren't quite there, but the tones are what I'm kind of focusing on. As I'm starting to build on it, I might start to bring in the correct colors, that like the hues that are needed. And every time I'm saying hue in this particular time-lapse video is really difficult because this is my brother Hugh, Hugh. And so whenever I'm talking about color, I like to use the word like hue or tonal value so that you know exactly what I'm talking about in terms of color, but it's throwing me off. So I might just use color just so I'm not so confused. At this point, I decided I needed to get this background in, and I just went with really neutral, kind of flat blue-gray. And I focused to be on this character and not any kind of scenery behind it or anything like that. I think that would be cool also, but I just thought, let's just focus on the character. And from the image that I was working from was a gray background also. So I did paint all my edges before continuing forward. And I was excited to get into some of the detail here. And I didn't mind actually how there's a bit of, like when you're working with opaque paint, you're not seeing any layers underneath. But when I was painting some of these browns that were maybe less opaque, it was kind of cool to see some of that showing through from my background. Kind of already makes it, you can see how it's made it more dynamic. Plus, if you just leave it white, then it's a little harder to add in your lightest values if it's already kind of there, the brightest point. So, but I do cover quite a bit of this background, but I did keep parts of it kind of showing through in between, as you'll notice as I go around. So yeah, I'm just continuing the process of building those bits where now I'm actually getting into really, really the darkest dark. So when I was using my tonal, like throwing in my tonal values at the beginning of painting this, I started with a pretty dark brown, but it was pretty transparent, I think, and it was showing through quite a bit underneath. So now that I've got a really dark mix, you know, not straight black, but quite dark, it really makes more of a contrast into those into this piece, and makes more of an impact. And then you have to kind of blend your paints from there. So I'm using multiple brushes to do this. I have recently bought myself another 1/4 inch angle brush because I love them so much. And so you'll see me with the blue handled one's the old one, and then this red handled one is like a longer handle. And so now I have two. Super excited because I love to use them. Now I have two, so I can kind of have one color on one, another color on the other, or just kind of erasing with one. There's the one with the red handle. So it's kind of helpful to have multiple brushes so you can use one with another color, but you have to be careful with acrylics because they will dry quickly. And at this point I just thought, okay, I'm working on detail. Let's just zoom in here, and so you can kind of see things a little bit better. And so I'm kind of working on this. The whole body. I had to show some abs and arms because my brother insisted that I make him look ripped. It's so funny to do this. I actually did a piece. I didn't even think about this before I selected his image and got started with this. It was after, like in this editing process, I remembered that I actually made a clay piece from high school and used him as a subject matter. He's like a McDonald's rock star. And when he was in high school, he had long hair. So I used the long hair. His mouth is hanging open. It's pretty funny. I believe he still has it. Decided to give that to him. This one, I don't really know what I'm going to do with it. If he's going to be making me music for my channel, I think it's pretty fair to give this to him. But until that happens, it will be in my possession. But it is kind of a little bit strange maybe to have this Viking picture of my brother in my house. I'm not sure where it will go. I should be like, what is this? Right next to some of my other work. I'm also thinking about whether or not I should put this on my website. So if you could let me know in the comments what you think. Should I add this to my portrait section of my website? Maybe go take a look and see what I've got there and let me know what you think. I want to make sure I'm making smart like marketing decisions as well. That's, you know, unfortunate part of being an artist if you're wanting to make money as an artist. But I do want those who land on my site to kind of be able to trust me in making pieces that will suit their needs. And I think that it does bring versatility. So I do like that, that I can offer, hey, I've done this piece, I've done that. But I also don't want to make it look too broad that they're kind of wondering whether I'll be the right person, if that makes sense. It's kind of one of those things, if you're trying to get into a gallery, it would be pretty hard if you just make totally different paintings each time. And for me, I'm still feeling like I'm finding myself as an artist in terms of maybe what I want to do with it. I don't know. Maybe that's not a journey where I actually get to a place. Maybe I'll just forever be working towards my goals of, you know, expertise that I feel super confident in. Maybe I could ask some artists that I admire if they feel like they're at that point, or if it's kind of just always a journey. Because to me, I just feel like there's always something I'm learning. Like, for instance, in this, I really enjoyed this part right here where I was creating these little details on the armor and the weaponry. And I also really love like painting like the hair and the fur. So that's something new that I've kind of learned. So I think maybe I will paint more animals because they have fur, most of them. That's always helpful to learn these things, regardless of whether this will be something I continue to do in the future. So before the music starts, I just want to say thank you guys so much. If you subscribed to my channel, extra thank you to you. And if you're thinking about it, just go for it. And we'll see you in the next one. Please enjoy this music by my brother, Hugh O'Brien.